Spider-Man Far From Home review. Let's do it. So, I just got back home from seeing Spider-Man Far From Home. It's the newest chapter in the MCU after the events of Endgame. We all want to know what's going to happen. This movie was supposed to solve all of our questions. Now, before we get started, this is going to be a spoiler review, just because I want to talk about some things that happen in the movie. So, complete spoiler review. So, spoiler warning. And before we get started, make sure to like, subscribe. Really appreciate it. Check out my other reviews. Anyways, let's talk about this movie. So, this movie, like I said, picks up just right after the events of Endgame, like Kevin Feige said. And so now we see how society kind of operates. 5 years have passed. We are in 2023 now, I believe, right? Yeah, 2023 now. They had some footage of like what it looked like when people started disappearing in the high school, which was actually kind of funny and scary at the same time, because you're like, oh crap. I heard like everybody gasp in the theater from that cell phone footage of everybody disappearing at a basketball game. And then it was funny the way everybody reappeared. So that happened. Now the events of Endgame are called or Infinity War are called the blip, like when everybody disappeared and came back. And we all saw how the kids start talking about how they didn't age because they're dead, and some of their friends aged far, like insane. And so they also talked about how they're still in high school and stuff like that, and they're not technically 21 or whatever, right? Blip happened. So that happened. I was really intrigued. Let's start off with this. I was really intrigued, like, okay, so we're just gonna brush over the fact that people died and 5 years later came back to life. Like, there's no way we're just gonna brush over like the actors or like the characters are gonna be like, it never happened. So they addressed that it did happen, and it does reoccur in the movie, how the characters are keep calling it the blip, and they explain that this, that, and that happened during the blip. So I have some notes written down. So if I look down in my notebook, it's because I just have some notes written down that I want to talk about. So now let's talk about Spider-Man Far From Home in general. So things that I liked. The story. Story was dope. I really enjoyed the way they sold me on the trailer of what's happening here and there. The way the trailer phrased it is that Spider-Man now has to take on the responsibilities of Iron Man. Nick Fury wants him to step up and be the next Iron Man, because obviously Tony Stark is gone now. And we also see Peter kind of dealing with that. And that really, the movie really sold me on that. It's like, okay, cool, where it's the next chapter in the Spider-Man story, but it's also linked with the MCU and the Avengers and what's happening. But the biggest thing of the story that I loved was that we are now taking our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man from Queens to Europe. And I thought, like, from the first trailer or from the first concept that we heard, Far From Home field trip, I was like, okay, this is dope, because obviously he's now in Europe. Skyscrapers are gone. How is he gonna adapt like his swinging or fighting? Like, what's gonna be the story? And gotta say, after watching this movie, really enjoyed the story. We're gonna get to different kind of the big characters that I want to talk about. But Mysterio, great addition, fantastic villain. I love that, and I think that's all I really gotta say about the story. I really dug the story. And now let's get some individual praises that I gotta say. Tom Holland as Spider-Man killed it once again. I keep thinking about this, and I think that Tom Holland is probably my favorite Spider-Man. I know that a lot of people are like, Tobey Maguire. Listen, I grew up in those films as well, and I love them. But Tom Holland has to kind of be appreciated for the performances he gives for his craft. Yes, we all love Tobey Maguire, but like, this kid is knocking out of the park with these performances. Again, fantastic. He clearly loves playing this character. He said that he wants to keep playing this character until he can't anymore. So, and apparently they're playing like 9 more Spider-Man movies or something like that. I don't know. So that's really dope to hear, because I love seeing him as Spider-Man. Really dope performance. At a young age, he found himself a role that he will forever be remembered for. There's actors, he can do a bunch of other projects, but he will forever be remembered, for Spider-Man. It's a pretty big role to be remembered for. So Tom Holland, again, Homecoming, Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame, Far From Home, you have knocked all of them out of the park. Great performances. Now, the big addition to the cast, the main villain, we got the superstar, the A-list actor, Jake Gyllenhaal, to play Mysterio. Now, the way they sold everybody on Mysterio in the trailer was that Mysterio is now the good guy. He is kind of teaming up with Spider-Man. They're seeing, okay, so we're gonna fight these elementals. Now, we all know that Mysterio is the bad guy. I don't think anybody walks in this movie being like, yeah, no, oh, Mysterio, wow, like huge plot twist there with him. And even though we knew that, I enjoyed the twist that he was the good guy because it gave him more of like a layer as a villain. And I think what the MCU is doing great now with the villains in the Phase 3, actually Phase 3 is now over, Spider-Man is the end. And I think what the MCU has grown with the villains is that the villains are no longer like just bad guys. They are kind of layered characters. They have real reasons and reasons that you can understand. And I mean, this villain had those reasons. He wanted to be, he wanted to be in the spotlight. He wanted to be the hero. He got a bunch of rejects together. I think a bunch of rejects. I'm gonna say rejects, but he got them together and they wanted to pose as heroes. And wow, I really dug that. And I dug the way he was doing it all, the way he was going about it. Because, so, in the comics and the cartoons and stuff like that, Mysterio makes illusions. And then after the first trailer, we saw him fire like lasers. So people were like, does he have actual powers? Like, or are they really illusions that he's making? Or how is he making these illusions? And for majority of the movie, he was blasting things, and I was like, okay, they're going the route that he has powers, fine. And a multiverse, I was like, okay, like this is really interesting. But it's all fake. It's all fake. The big thing from that trailer number 2 was that the multiverse. He said it. He was like, listen, there is a multiverse, and we were all like, very interesting. I really want to see where that goes. But it all turns out to be fake. He's using drones to make these illusions. The way they explain it makes sense to me. I'm like, okay, I can go along with it. But again, one of those comic book fiction things that if you think way too much about it, it'll kind of ruin it for you. So I'm just kind of jumping on board, being like, okay, I understand, cool. Jake Gyllenhaal does a great job. He's an A-list actor, and he doesn't disappoint as Mysterio. Now, another character that I want to talk about, MJ, Zendaya. At the end of Homecoming, I gotta say, Zendaya's character, I didn't really understand her reasoning of being in Homecoming. We all know that Zendaya is a big name, and she got the role in Homecoming, and I didn't really understand her kind of why she was there until at the end when she was like, oh, some of my friends call me MJ. And just like many people, I was like, seems a bit forced. It does. And I was very skeptical going into this movie because we all saw in the trailers, again, I'm referring back to the trailers a lot, but we saw that her and Peter are really going to get this MJ Peter Parker relationship going. And I was like, I'm very skeptical about it. But I gotta say, at the end of the day, I really liked her character. She sold me on it. The thing that I didn't like about her character in Homecoming, and just the way, it was advertised, was that she was kind of a character that was like really weird. She was doing like random strange things. And she was always like edgy also, she would say like fun facts about like people deaths and stuff, like a bunch of people were decapitated on the bridge back in the day. Or like she would be like, oh, I'm here to draw people when they're sad and stuff. And then she's like, oh, figured out he's Spider-Man. And I was like, ugh, I don't know about that. I don't know how I feel about, I feel like their writers are just giving you everything. And but no, when I saw the movie, I was like, she's great, and I really dug their relationship, the Peter Parker and MJ thing, the little awkward teenage thing that they were going for. I fully understood, and I was like, they're doing. The actors were really selling me on it, and at the end of the day, at the end of the movie, when they got together, I was perfectly fine with their relationship. I'm looking forward to see where it goes next. Now, so we got the actors out of the way. Now, I want to give a big shout out to is the CGI in this movie and the action scenes in general, the set pieces. Amazing, some of the best I've seen in a Spider-Man movie in a while. Homecoming, I loved Homecoming, but excuse me. But if I had to give a negative, was that the action set pieces, can't speak. The action set pieces and sequences didn't really wow me. Like, he wasn't swinging through New York like Tobey Maguire Spider-Man or Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. He was swinging through suburban neighborhoods, and, you know, some of the action sequences just didn't really sell me on it. In this movie, he's out of New York, so originally I was also like, are the action set pieces going to be that good? But they were. From the first set piece in Vienna? Vienna? I think they're in Vienna, right? From that set piece, from where he doesn't have the suit on and he's fighting Hydro Man and he's flying through the air and he's holding buildings. Dope. Fantastic. The CGI looked crisp, looked great. My favorite part in this movie, towards the beginning of the third act and in the third act, when we actually see Mysterio do these illusions to Peter Parker when he goes to meet Nick Fury in Berlin, and then boom, illusion. I was really amazed by the CGI they had. The illusions look great, the sequences look great. Sometimes I feel like these whole illusions where they're like, oh my god, like, is this real? And they like fall through holes and clouds and boom like that. Sometimes those illusions can lose me, but this one really kept me entertained. I was like, what's gonna happen? What's a new creative way they're gonna spin this? And what I really love is, I don't know if I mentioned this in the previous video, but I told this to one of my friends, is Mysterio is known for his illusions, so what if, to weaken Peter, he makes an illusion of Tony Stark? Now, I knew that was a bit far-fetched because I knew they weren't going to get Robert Downey Jr. Robert Downey Jr. wasn't going to come back to even make this cameo. So I was like, okay. But as the first couple illusions were happening, I was like, okay, it will pop up, and I wondered which way. And boom, there is a Tony Stark grave. A skeleton Iron Man comes out. Kind of gave me the same impact I probably would have had. I probably would have had more of an impact if Tony came back. That would have been more effed up to do. And I really feel like they should have taken a swing on it, but, you know, it's showbiz. You got to pay a lot. Robert Downey Jr. is going to pay millions for maybe like 10 seconds of screen time, and I knew they weren't going to do that. But the CG and everything was crisp, amazing. Now, like, a few negatives. I've just a few negatives about this movie. In general, I love the movie. But where the movie kind of loses me is the pacing in the middle kind of falls off for me, because the dialogue starts to feel a little bit repetitive. Again, it goes back to that MJ and Peter Parker awkward, cute relationship. Their dialogue starts to feel the same, and the way they were talking and the pacing kind of felt the same. And I was like, okay, maybe you could switch this up. Or Peter's complaints to Mysterio at the bar, and Nick Fury felt very repetitive, and I was like, okay, we can move on, I guess. And the whole fight with not Hydro Man, the fire guy, again, great set piece, but it kind of just flew by. So the pacing kind of in the middle lost me a little bit, but it picked up right again as soon as Nick Fury gets fired through a wall, and Peter realizes that it's all Mysterio's illusion. And that's probably one of my favorite sequences in this movie. Again, is the first time he puts Peter through an illusion and Peter gets hit by a train. So that's that. And another negative that I didn't think I was going to put on this list is Ned. I didn't think it was going to be a positive or a negative, Ned. Um, in the first movie, Ned as a character, he's best friends with Peter Parker, and I loved Ned. I thought he was funny. He had great comedic timing, and his relationship with Peter was solid, right? In this movie, he takes a kind of a back seat. They do like a really strange kind of thing with him, where he gets this relationship with this girl. I forgot her name. I know her name. Her name isn't Gwen Stacy. She's not Gwen, but he gets into this relationship with her, and at the end of the movie, they actually end up breaking up. So this relationship goes nowhere. Never cared about the relationship. He had like a few funny lines here and there. He would pop out and say something funny like he did in the first movie. But I really feel like he took a backseat for MJ to kind of, for Peter and MJ's relationship to kind of build. And Ned kind of felt like a waste, really, because every single time he would pop up, I'd be like, okay, you're kind of, you're not supposed, it feels like you're not supposed to be here, like you're really taking up the time here, which is a shame because, like I said, I like Ned as a side character in the first movie, but I really feel like that relationship they put him through and everything else kind of stopped the character right there for me. So Ned, yeah. And the pacing in the middle was a bit slow. So, to wrap this up, let's talk about the ending, the post-credit scenes. What's happening? But, wait, forgot. Before the post-credit scene, what I noticed at the airport when everybody comes back from the trip, Flash, there's a thing that happens with Flash. So Flash is this rich guy, so he has a butler pick him up. He goes to the butler and he's like, oh, where's my mom? And he's like, well, your mom's too busy. They do this whole thing where the rich kid has rich parents who are too busy doing business stuff, so they can't take care of the kid, and the kid's sad. And I feel like they're building something for him as a character arc. It's not going to be like a superhero thing, I'm sure, but maybe we get to see some of his relationships, and he's going to be more of a developed character. Because I like this take on Flash, because I've just recently got out of high school like 2 years ago, and all these kind of bullies in movies, and even Sam Raimi's early 2000 bully, kind of felt fake. I mean, I didn't go to high school in the early 2000s, so maybe that bully seemed more realistic. But bullies are really not around anymore, or act like they are portrayed in previous movies. So this take on like a smart Flash who's like quippy and calls. He's not really a bully, you know. He makes fun of Peter, but yeah, I really like that take on him, and I noticed that for his character, they're setting something up for the future. So let's finish talking about the ending and the post-credit scene. So at the end, Mysterio dies, which kind of surprised me because they left Michael Keaton alive in the previous movie, and now he's in prison, and there's a whole thing that maybe the Sinister Six is getting together. We'll see. But Mysterio dies in this movie. And at the end of the day, looking at his power set and looking that they're kind of fake and he has no real powers, maybe in the future he can't really contribute to the Sinister Six in any way. So maybe killing him off is the right way to go. But the only reason it surprised me is because it's Jake Gyllenhaal, A-list actor, so I guess they don't want to bring him back in the future. But, post-credit scene. These two were some of the best post-credit scenes that I've seen in the MCU, or that I can remember in recent times. I think the most vivid one, or my favorite one, before these two were the Ant-Man and the Wasp. That was probably the most shocking one, and it was kind of cool. But in this mid-credit scene, Mysterio paints Spider-Man as the bad guy, and reveals his identity to everybody, which paints the way for Spider-Man 4. I guess we'll see where that goes. Wow, it said Spider-Man 4. Wow. Paints the way for Spider-Man 3. I guess we'll see where that goes. And I really hope that in the future they don't just brush over it like Loki at the end of Thor 2 turning into his dad, and you're like, oh wow, his dad Odin was Loki this whole time, and then in Thor 3 it's solved in like 2 minutes in the beginning, no problem. So I really hope in Spider-Man 3 it's not like this big thing where like, oh no, it wasn't that bad at all. Like Spider-Man, like Peter Parker now has friends everywhere because everybody knows he's Spider-Man. Like, it wasn't that bad. Because kind of in this movie especially, it was driven hard that he wants to keep his identity a secret, even though he does a bad job at it, in my opinion. But yeah, so kind of just getting rid of that. And I realize that's the MCU's way of being like, nah, we're not going to go the route of hiding his identity too much. So here, take it. And that was dope. Special shout out, J.K. Simmons comes back to reprise his role as J. Jonah Jameson. Dope. Enjoyed it. I love how the Daily Bugle in different platforms kind of transforms into this new thing. In the past, it used to be a newspaper company or news printing thing. I can't think right now. But let's face it, newspapers are kind of obsolete nowadays. So in the Spider-Man video game, which I haven't actually played because I don't have a PS4, but I've seen videos. I think it's a radio show. He has like a podcast. And in this movie, it's a news station, and it's called a controversial news station. But he has the scoop, and so he knows now who Spider-Man is like the rest of the world. So I hope they don't just brush over that. Also, at the end, the last post-credit scene, we realized that the whole movie, Maria Hill and Nick Fury were Skrulls because Nick Fury is up in space, I want to say, working on something. Again, that's for the future, so we'll see where that goes. That one kind of shocked me, but I didn't. Now I'm gonna sit in it and be like, okay, where's this going? Because that one is like way more for the future. I think the first one, the mid-credit scene, was for like a Spider-Man future, but the next one is actually for the whole MCU future. What is Nick Fury up to? We'll see. The Skrulls are here. Maybe a secret invasion type of thing is happening. I guess we'll see. Yeah, but go see Spider-Man Far From Home. And if you have already seen it, actually, let me know what you think down in the comments below. Let me know what you think of these post-credit scenes, because I think they're pretty dope. And yeah, before I leave you, make sure to like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Also, check out some other reviews that I've done. I did a Game of Thrones series review with my good friend Alex just recently. It's pretty long, but it's the whole series review. We talk about the controversial season 8 and what we liked and disliked about the show in general. Also, I did a John Wick review, and there's a bunch of other reviews, including Endgame. And so yeah, check those out, like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys later.